5:03. Good evening, everyone. It's 5:03 p.m. and I call this public meeting to order. I want to thank everyone who is joining us this evening. If you want to make a public comment on the items listed under the closed session agenda, please listen carefully to the direction provided by the clerk at the opening of each item. Ms. Lozando.
Public hearing for visitors who wish to address the board on closed session items. 15 minutes of this portion of the meeting are reserved for members of the public to address the board on closed session items. Speakers seeking to comment on other items are requested to make those comments during the public comment portion of the meeting at 6:30 p.m. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. The school board is prohibited by law from taking actions on matters discussed that are not on the agenda, and no adverse conclusions should be drawn if the school board does not respond to public comment at this time. If you wish to address the board on an item included in this section of the agenda, please step up to the podium and state your name and city of residence. If you are joining us remotely and would like to make a public comment, click on the reactions icon located at the bottom of your screen. In the reactions window, click on the raise hand button and wait for your name to be called. We will allow speakers from the audience to address the board in the order they approach the podium or appear on our screen. President Seibert, we do not have participants who wish to address the board at this time.
Okay, thank you. Seeing none, hearing none, I close public hearing and adjourn to closed session. Discuss items 1A through 1D. The board will reconvene at the conclusion of closed session. Good evening, everyone. It is 6:40 p.m. I will call this regular meeting to order. Welcome to tonight's board meeting. I want to welcome the media and everyone joining in person or by Zoom. We ask those joining us this evening to please silence your electronic devices, not linked to this meeting. If you'd like to make a public comment, please listen carefully to the directions provided by the clerk at the opening of each public comment period. Superintendent Lyle.
President Seibert, Clerk Mendoza, members of the board and staff and members of the public, I'd like to remind us all of our vision and our mission, that we're responsible to lead and inspire each day. Our vision states that Madera Unified will set the standard for hard work, creativity, and resiliency with a fearless drive to continuously improve. And our mission states that we're committed to creating and sustaining a culture enabling Madera Unified students to experience an unparalleled educational journey that is intellectually, socially, and personally transformative. Whatever we do this evening on behalf of students, staff, and the community is meant to lead to the realization of that mission and that vision. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Superintendent Lyle. Item number 3, roll call. Ms. Lozando, would you please call roll?
Trustee Ahmad,
Here.
trustee Cortez,
Yes, here.
trustee Dibert,
Here.
trustee Fleek,
Here.
trustee Salazar,
Here.
clerk Mendoza,
Here.
and President Seibert.
Here. You're going.
Oh, here, sorry.
You're going to do the count. I'm waiting for you to do the count. Thank you. Trustee Mendoza, would you please lead us in the flag salute?
Yes, please stand. Face the flag to the north wall. Hey, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, liberty, justice.
Tonight's schedule invocation is provided by Pastor Fred Thurman of New Life Assembly of Madera. I invite Pastor Thurman to the podium.
Thank you. Let's bow our heads. We ask the Lord for blessing tonight. Heavenly Father, we bless you this evening as we gather together here and ask for your presence. We ask for your vision to come, Lord, into the lives of our hearts tonight. Help us, God, to make the right decisions for our children and in the schools in the city of Madera. Father, we thank you, God, for your wisdom and understanding that comes from your word. We praise you now, Lord. Give clarity of mind, clarity of thought, and clarity of vision to our board and those making decisions tonight. We ask this in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Thurman. Okay, item number 4, closed session reportable actions. Superintendent Lyle.
President Cyber Clerk Mendoza, members of the board and public, we had a vote of 7-0. The board approved a settlement of a special education dispute in the matter of student versus Madera Unified School District, OAH case number 2025-040063. The vote count was 7 ayes, 0 nays, and 0 absent.
Thank you, Superintendent Lyle. Adoption of the agenda, Ms. Lozando.
Action to add or delete items from any portion of the agenda or to discuss any consent agenda items must be taken prior to the adoption of the agenda.
Superintendent Lyle, does the staff have items to add or remove from the agenda?
We do not this evening, sir.
Thank you, Superintendent Lyle. Trustees, do you have items to add or delete from the agenda? Okay, do I have a motion, a second to adopt the agenda as presented?
President Seibert, I so move to approve, adopt the agenda as presented. Trustee Fleek, all second.
Been moved by trustee Salazar and seconded by trustee Fleek to adopt the agenda as presented. Ms. Lozando, would you please poll the board for the record?
Certainly. Trustee Ahmad,
Yes.
trustee Cortez,
Yes.
trustee Dybert,
Yes.
trustee Fleek,
Yes.
trustee Salazar,
Yes.
clerk Mendoza,
Yes.
and President Seibert.
Yes.
President Seibert, I counted 7 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, and 0 absent.
Thank you. Item number 6, communication. Item number 6A1, student and staff recognition. Madera Minute. Superintendent Lyle.
So President Cyber Clerk Mendoza, members of the board, our talented communications team has worked really hard over the last 2 very eventful weeks to capture a wide variety of successes. I think you saw them out everywhere you went, pretty religiously here. They found a lot of memorable moments that were shared by our students and our colleagues. And we hope everyone enjoys the highlight reel of all the things that make us proud.
More than 1,400 students walked the stage during this year's graduation ceremonies. The graduates from Madera, Madera South, and Torres High Schools received their diplomas to a cheering crowd of friends and family. 8th grade students advancing to high school were honored during special promotional ceremonies at their schools. District leadership presented the students with certificates for their achievements. Matilda Torres High School baseball and softball teams made history. The Torres baseball team won the CIF Central Section Division 6 championship, and the THS softball team also claimed the CIF Central Section Division 6 championship. Students from around the district were awarded the School Pride Award. An initiative designed to support 4th to 6th grade students encourages them to get involved in a variety of school and community activities. Madera Unified recognized several individuals with the We Believe Champions Award. This award is given to teachers and staff who inspire students and help them overcome challenges. Congratulations to all recipients. Hundreds of classified staff took part in this year's classified conference. The theme, Building Bridges to Bright Futures, offered a day of learning, connection, and inspiration. The event showcased the many opportunities available within the district and offered valuable workshops designed to support both professional development and personal growth.
Item number 6B, public hearing for visitors who wish to speak on a subject not on the board agenda. Ms. Lozando.
15 minutes of this portion of the meeting are reserved for members of the public to address the board on items not listed on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the school board. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. If the subject is an item on the agenda, the board president has the option of asking the speaker to hold a comment until the item is called. Comments on items listed as a public hearing on the agenda should be held until the hearing is opened. The school board is prohibited by law from taking actions on matters discussed that are not on the agenda, and no adverse conclusion should be drawn if the school board does not respond to public comment at this time. If you wish to address the board on an item not on the board agenda, please step up to the podium and state your name and city of residence. If you are joining remotely and would like to make a public comment, click on the reactions icon located at the bottom of your screen. In the reactions window, click on the raise hand button and wait for your name to be called. Speakers will be allowed to address the board in the order they approach the podium or appear on our screen. President Seibert, we do not have, oh, sorry, we do? Oh, so sorry.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Yvonne Martinez. I reside here in the city of Madera. And I am here to, in representation of the Mariachi Honors Group, and we're here to ask for support that we more than see the kids have earned at this point. These kids have been playing mariachi at their schools for at least 2 years, and they have fallen in love with this music that has, for many of us, is very near and dear to our hearts. So much so that they have decided to be a part of an additional group after school. These kids have performed for many community events, including the St. Joachim's Harvest Festival, the Pomegranate Festival, as well as district events, amongst them the State Seal by Literacy Ceremony and the California Superintendent's Conference. They have also opened for a well-established mariachi group. They have practiced with Fresno State and participated in both state festivals and competitions. All this to say that despite their hard work, dedication, and love of music, they have been met with little support from the district. The entity we feel should be its biggest support. Our kids are in need of new trajes, specifically our high schoolers who are still wearing the traje they received in middle school, and our boys in particular are quite literally bursting at the seams of their pants. And in order to continue growing, participating, and representing the district, they need to look as professional as the rest of our high schools. I understand funds have to be allocated a certain way, but our group's director isn't even aware of how much is allocated to this group alone. And that is a problem. Beyond purchasing the trajes, he's had to cancel performances due to not finding a department willing to cover transportation expenses. And if not having sufficient funds is the issue, us parents are willing to fundraise. But again, we need the district support to do so. When we tried recently to use the fundraise money and put some of our money out of pocket to purchase trajes, the response we got from the VEPA department was that they were not allowed to wear them during any district sponsored event, further cementing the unwillingness of the district to support this group. We have reached the point where the kids are noticing the differences in treatment, and that is not right. We should not have reached this point. They're wondering why they can't be afforded to look the same, be treated the same. Not only were they taken aback during mariachi night when another school played more songs than they were allotted for, and when another high school was given more time to play than any other school, but then they had to put up with Mr. Gillies telling them to get off the stage by shooing them off with the gesture of his hands and telling them bye-bye, not giving them time to bow to the public. All of them were upset by this action, some to the point of tears. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Veronica Leon, and I'm here in support of Yvonne and Mariachi Honor. My son and I are brand new to Madera. We moved in from the Bay Area, I believe in January. So I do want to say that Madera has been very welcoming to us. And for me, Mariachi Honor has really given my son a place to feel like this is a great community. And so although I'm still learning about Mariachi Honor and all the wonderful things that they do for the community, I have seen just what Yvonne was sharing. I feel like they deserve so much more. For me, I noticed the mariachi night, how mariachi is just so big in this community. I do come from the Bay Area and we don't see that over there. So here to know that all these children feel so a part of the community by playing their cultural music, and just being able to be represented out there is so wonderful. So my son now being a part of that opens up my heart. I'm so proud of him. And I'm so proud of Mariachi Eleanor to have, accepted him into this program. And the fact that it's students from all over Madera. So they're getting to know each other and they're opening up their horizons to other communities. So yeah, I'm on board with Yvonne. We just started, but I noticed the lack of support that they have been having lately. So we would really appreciate your guys' support. Thank you.
Excuse me. What was your name again? Okay, thank you.
President Seibert, we have no others who wish to speak to the board at this time.
Seeing no one else go to public comment, I close public comments. Item number 6C, public hearing. Public hearing is for 2025 to 2026 local control accountability plan. The plan outlines the goals, actions, and resources for the next 2 years to improve student outcomes. Ms. Lozando.
If you wish to address the board on this item, please step up to the podium and state your name and city of residence. If you are joining us remotely and would like to make a public comment, please click on the reactions icon located at the bottom of your screen. In the reactions window, click on the raise hand button and wait for your name to be called. We will allow speakers from the audience to address the board in the order they approach the podium or appear on our screen. President Seibert, we do not have participants who wish to address the board at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Lozando. Seeing or hearing no one, I close the public hearing at 6:54. We have a public hearing for the 2025, 2026 proposed budget and reserve levels. The board has an approved 10% minimum fund balance. This level of reserve allows the district to manage cash flow, mitigate funding, address unexpected costs, save for large purchases, and reduce borrowing costs. Ms. Lozando.
If you wish to address the board on this item, please step up to the podium and state your name and city of residence. If you are joining us remotely and would like to make a public comment, please click on the reactions icon located at the bottom of your screen. In the reactions window, click on the raise hand button and wait for your name to be called. We will allow speakers from the audience to address the board in the order they approach the podium or appear on our screen. President Seibert, we do not have participants who wish to address the board on this item.
Thank you, Ms. Lozando. Seeing or hearing no one, I close public hearing at 6:55 p.m. Item number 7, consent agenda. Ms. Lozando.
Items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and are acted on by the Board of Trustees in one motion. There is no discussion of these items prior to the board vote unless a member of the board or staff requests specific items be considered and discussed separately and or removed from the consent agenda prior to the adoption of the agenda. It is understood that the administration recommends approval on all consent items. Each item on the consent agenda approved by the Board of Trustees shall be deemed to have been considered in full and adopted as recommended.
And I'll open the consent agenda for public comment. Ms. Lozando.
If you wish to address the board on an item included in the consent agenda, please step up to the podium and state your name and city of residence. If you are joining remotely and would like to make a public comment, click on the reactions icon located at the bottom of your screen. In the reactions window, click on the raise hand button and wait for your name to be called. Speakers will be allowed to address the board in the order they approach the podium or appear on our screen. President Seibert, we do not have participants who wish to address the board at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Lozando. Seeing no one come forward, I close public comment. Now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. State your name when making the motion. And when you second the motion,
Trustee Diver, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Trustee Cortez, second that motion.
been moved by trustee Dybert and seconded by trustee Cortez to approve the consent agenda. There's one resolution in the consent agenda. Ms. Elizondo, would you please poll the board?
Sorry, trustee Ahmad,
Yes.
trustee Cortez,
Yes.
trustee Dybert,
Yes.
trustee Fleek,
Yes.
trustee Salazar,
Yes.
clerk Mendoza,
Yes.
and president Seibert.
Yes.
President Seibert, I counted 7 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, and 0 absent.
Clerk, Mendoza, would you like to help with our retirees?
It'll be my pleasure. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank and acknowledge the following retirees for the service, not only for Madera Unified, but also for their service and commitment to the Madera community. First off, it's Bertha Uribe, paraprofessional aide at Millview Elementary School. Retired on June 6, 2025, after 40 years of service. If you happen to see Miss Ruby anywhere abouts, thank her for her service to the community and Madera Unified. Thank you. Back to you, President Seibert.
She's been around longer than I have. You've been in China Wire. Are there any administrative announcements?
We do have two, and that is saying something, isn't it? We have two this evening, sir. We have two principal positions that were actually previously approved by the board's action 2 weeks ago, but we didn't have either of the approved candidates here to be introduced. So we're going to bring them up tonight. I'd like to first introduce a lady who has been in education for the last 25 years, first as an elementary school teacher, and then as the principal of one of the most beautiful little picturesque schools in all of Central California, Wasuma Elementary School up in Bass Lake Joint Union School District. And then later she was a vice principal at Garfield, Kasner, and Clovis West. The last 3 years, she's been a principal out in Orcutt in the Central Coast, and she's relocating to the Central Valley. And we've had a little bit of a connection. I'd rather have her explain it than me. But I'd like to introduce our new principal for Rose Elementary School, Ms. Nikki Sorensen.
Good evening, President Seibert and Clerk Mendoza, all of the members of the board and Superintendent Lyle. The story goes like this. In 2017, I had the opportunity to meet with Superintendent Lyle and hear about the vision for the district and sort of fell in love with the vision and the work that was being done here. I'm a Valley native, almost 50 years in the Valley, and I just moved away for 4 years for an opportunity, and we're moving back to be close with our family. And people keep asking me this one question over and over: aren't you going to miss the weather? And wherever you go, you're going to miss something. So I get to choose to miss the weather or stay there and miss my family. And I'd rather miss the weather. So I'm moving back, and my husband and I are very excited about the move. He couldn't be here this evening because at the end of every school year, he takes a very important camping trip with his closest teacher friends. And so he's not here, but I'm joined this evening by my daughter, Kate, who's representing our 4 children that are aged 22, 23, 27, 31. And we now have a big, happy family all here together. So I'm so excited to be leading Rose Elementary. I've had the opportunity to meet with the principal and the vice principal and several teachers, and I've been communicating, and it just seems like the most warm and welcoming community. I'm happy to be joining them and helping them take the next steps. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nikki. And Rose is a really, really cool community, and they have a ton of support. So all the best to you. I'd also like to introduce to the board a lady who is a very highly respected principal where she's coming from, and has also 25 years of education. First as an elementary school teacher, where she worked with newcomers with refugee status, which is a really challenging assignment to take on. But that, I think, really speaks to the level of passion that she brings to the job. She's a vice principal at Temperance Cutner, and she was a vice principal at Clovis West, or Clovis High School, excuse me, for 8 years. And the last 2 years has been the principal of Sierra Vista Elementary School in Clovis. I'd like to share that Jen Tao is really known for her instructional leadership in both the English and math departments at Clovis High School. And I've said it many times, of all the schools that I ever worked in, I thought Clovis High was about the most well-run. As a teacher, I thought it was the most well-run school that I ever got to be a part of. And to have someone who has that vision for the future of Madera South High School, I think is really powerful for us. So I'd like to introduce Ms. Jen Tao as our new principal for Madera South.
Hi, good evening, President Seibert, Clerk Mendoza, and the esteemed Board of Trustees, as well as Superintendent Todd Lyle. My name is Jennifer Tao, and thank you so much. I want to start off by just humbly saying thank you for believing in me and everything we do in education. It's about believing in our kids and believing in the team that we have in order to make a difference. So I just want to say thank you. Yes, I have worked 25 years, I would say 25 plus, if I count all of the years when I started when I was 17. Yeah, I did. I've been that long in education, but it's always been a blessing where I go. And I feel like this is another blessing for me to be able to leave Clovis Unified and be here and start my next chapter and journey here in Madera Unified. I'm just deeply honored and grateful for the opportunity to join Madera Unified School District and Madera South High School as the new high school principal there. I'm excited. And I want to just extend my heartfelt thanks to every one of you for your confidence and believing in my abilities to be able to serve a team, serve a community, staff, and students. And that's very important to me, near and dear in my heart, as I've spent my years in education. I spent some time getting to know Madera South and really just researching and knowing and walking the campus and working with my predecessor and trying to understand kind of where to start from here. And I'm excited. I think what I've learned is that Madera South High School has stood as a pillar of excellence. And I'm excited to contribute my educational leadership skills with this team and just the passion I have to further the mission of the school and the vision of the school. As anything, I commit to working for Madera South and for Madera Unified. And as you can see, I'm wearing our Stallion purple and black, which is very important to me. Climate and culture.
You're learning fast.
I'm learning quick. That's right. Something I learned from Todd too, is that you learn quick when you start, right? So I'm committed to supporting the vision, the students, the staff, and the community and the families. And I think one thing I have learned is I fell in love with the community and fell in love with just the fact that these students and these families never give up. They are determined to be successful. Together, I feel like we're going to create a positive, nurturing learning environment for our students. And we're going to continue to have grit and persevere. And tonight, I want to introduce my foundational strength and team, my village. I would say maybe a fifth of my village back here. I have my kids, my dad and his wife, my siblings, my aunt, my whole family, and including in spirit, my husband, my mom, and God. So these are my just my pillars of leading me to where I'm at and what I'm doing. I have the passion to make a difference and really believing in that to help students become just leaders in our society. One thing I do want to highlight is my family is a first generational agricultural family. So one thing we've learned is resilience, teamwork, collaboration, and trust, and having high standards. And that is what I commit to doing when I'm leading Madera South and Madera Unified. So just once again, I incredibly just want to say thank you. I'm humble. Thank you for this opportunity, and I can't wait to get started. Thank you.
Again, there's no pressure at all, right? There's not a whole bunch of Stallion administrators in the room who just absolutely love that school or anything. So don't worry about that. No pressure. Best of luck. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And congratulations. Item number 8, information or reports. Item 8A, union time. At this time, I invite the president of the unions to address the board. Mr. Holder.
Board President Seibert, Clerk Mendoza, Board Member Superintendent Lyle. To start off, last week, we saw in the Madera minutes, and I know all of you were at many of the graduations and promotions, as I was, and Superintendent Lyle and others in here, and to see such enthusiasm and such positivity last week. Throughout the entire week was just awesome. And again, the year ended on such a high note. And then leading into today, today was the first day of summer school. And from what I've heard, it went well with the teacher planning day. And then tomorrow will be the first day with students. And so it looks like summer school is off to a good start as well. That's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Holder, any other union presidents?
Yes, but not that she wishes to speak to the board at this time. She does not wish to speak, yes.
All right, thank you. Item number 9, superintendent's time. Superintendent Lyle.
So President Cyber, Clerk Mendoza, members of the board and public, there is almost too much to say. So I'm going to keep it as brief as I can. But I would like to embarrass two people that are in the room who they're the tip top of my list to thank tonight. But Aurora and Monica, I want to make sure that I call out the fact that you're actually in the audience, and the work that you do at the Adult Transition Program is just platinum level, first class on every year, year in and year out. The compassion, the passion, the empathy, the connection that you have with your students and your paraprofessionals and the staff at Furman is just literally second to none. And I'm really glad you're here. I had no idea you would be here. The first thing on my list to thank was for those of us that were there, we all walked away feeling like you do something really, really special every single year. And it is crystal clear the value that you bring to those families and to the lives of your students. So I want to say thank you to you very directly. I also want to thank our middle schools and our K-8s for really tremendous promotions. They tried very hard to personalize and make this a family occasion where the connections between our teachers and our students and our schools and our families was on full display. I was very, very pleased with the level of precision and professionalism. And I think it speaks to the level of camaraderie and collaboration that you see across our schools right now between all the teacher leaders, the counselors, our administrators. It goes on and on. And then we had 4 really successful graduations, culminating in quite possibly one of the best graduations I've ever seen at Madera South High School. It was like a Swiss watch. It was just amazing. And we had so many students who got to stand up and be celebrated for all the things that they had accomplished. And to just call out Madera South just for one moment, it seemed like to all of us that something between 40 to 50% of all the students stood up as pathway completers when they had the chance to be acknowledged. And at Torres, we had, over 120 students achieve the seal of biliteracy. And, at Madera High School, we had just a ton of CSF Life members. Each one had something really special. And the stories of resilience and overcoming obstacles that we heard in Alt-Ed was just really inspirational. I've heard a lot of feedback from the community. There's always something here or there that we wish we would have said or done, but the feedback has been tremendous, that our community feels as though they're really proud that their students get to be a part of these experiences. And so I want to thank you for the investment in all of that. It takes a lot of technology, takes a lot of support, takes a huge amount of work that is almost indescribable on multiple levels, but it paid off. I want to thank you all for having the resilience to be there 7 nights in a row. All 7 of you be there 4 nights in a row. Felt like 7, that's for sure. And I also want to thank our classified conference committee led by the Personnel Commission and the work that they did at Torres. It was a really first-class event all over again this last year. And lastly, I want to share with everyone to be on the lookout, because this parking lot, although I remember the board directing us to start working on getting it fixed and redone back in 2016, we've been holding off on that because of how many other things should be more important, but we're at the point where that can't be held off anymore. It's been almost 10 years since first directed to really look into getting the plans developed. So I want to thank Sandon and his team for getting that ready. I think it starts next week on Monday. And so it's not going to be accessible for the rest of the summer. So all of those of us who will be working over the summer, and that's a whole bunch of us in the room, we work for the rest of the summer, except for that little spell around the 4th, we'll be hiking in from Town and Country Park. Because we're gonna have to. There's no place else to go. So when you have to come to the district office, just know to wear your sunblock because it's gonna be a little bit of a hike from wherever you park your car to come on in here. So I want to apologize for that in advance, but on the other side of it, we'll at least have a place that isn't a trip and fall hazard, even when it's dry outside, much less when it's raining. So thanks.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Lyle. Item number 10A, old business. Fiscal services, discuss and approve the 2025-2026 annual contract services agreements. Superintendent Lyle.
So President Seibert, Clerk Mendoza, and members of the board and public, we have the ever diligent and incredibly focused CFO Garcia here for this item.
Good evening, President Seibert, Clerk Mendoza, trustees, Superintendent Lyle. As every year, we come to you to request approval for the service contracts that we're gonna be using in 25-26. I provided you with a new book. Beautiful, right? And you also have a summary page and nothing has, from the summary page that I presented to you last board meeting, everything is there now and all the changes has been done. So it includes 294 contracts, and that is 45.6 million in expenditures and 1.4 million in revenue. Those contracts that we bring revenue and we'll spend the money, of course. And 21.8 million unrestricted, 23.8 million restricted. In total, 45 million in expenditures. We closed 43 contracts from the year before that are not renewing, totaling 4.4 million. And then we added 32 new contracts. Most of them are in the restricted side with a total savings of 1.4 million. If you have any specific questions, I'll be happy to answer, and I'll have a whole team in the Zoom land that can help me answer any questions.
I have a question on educational services. It's in the middle. And curriculum and instruction. Why is secondary so much more than elementary? I know they have more contracts, but why is that?
Let's see. So we have California Teaching Fellows, that is 1.3 million contract, and that will be for the ABIT program. And that will be from 7th and 8th grade at Howard. And also we're gonna be doing tutors from that contract, and also the 7th and 8th grade initiative, math initiative that we're gonna start next year.
So we have new programs.
A new
happening.
program in the with the California Teaching Fellows, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions, board members? Thank you, CFO Garcia. I open this item for public comment. Ms. Lozando.
If you wish to address the board regarding this item, please step up to the podium and state your name and city of residence. If you are joining remotely and would like to make a public comment, click on the reactions icon located at the bottom of your screen. In the reactions window, click on the raise hand button and wait for your name to be called. Speakers will be able to address the board in the order they approach the podium or appear on our screen. President Seibert, we do not have participants who wish to address the board at this time.
Thank you. Seeing none come forward, I close public comment. Trustees, do you have any questions? Staff? I do have a motion, a second, to approve the 2025-2026 annual contract service agreements. State your name when making the motion and when you second the motion.
Trustee Diver, I move to approve the 25-26 annual contract service agreements.
Trustee Fleek, I'll second.
It's been moved by trustee Dibert and seconded by trustee Fleek to approve the 2025-26 annual contract service agreements. Ms. Lozando, would you please poll the board?
Trustee Ahmad,
Yes.
trustee Cortez,
Yes.
trustee Dibert,
Yes.
trustee Fleek,
Yes.
Trustee Salazar,
Yes.
Clerk Mendoza,
Yes.
and President Seibert.
Yes.
President Seibert, I counted 7 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, and 0 absent.
Thank you. Item 11, new business. Item 11A, educational service, present and discuss the 2025-26 local control accountability plan. Superintendent Lyle.
President Cyber, Clerk Mendoza, members of the board, we have Associate Superintendent Sissel, who's worked extremely hard on the LCAP again this year. The good news is it's not a full rewrite like it had been before, but there is plenty that has been refined based on the feedback from our Parent Advisory Committee and our English Language Advisory Committee. And we have here also Director Bonilla, who is the co-author of this particular piece of work. So, Ms. Sissel, if you would, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, President Seibert, Clerk Mendoza, members of the board. Tonight is the first read of the proposed LCAP for 2025, 2026. As we all remember, last year you adopted the LCAP. Each LCAP is adopted and authored every 3 years with annual revisions and review. So what we're bringing forward today, I won't necessarily take you through every page because the document itself is almost the exact same. What I will do is share with you and point out some of the areas that are being revised or updated as we go through. So first thing I want to start with is I always get asked, is there anything new? Anything change for this year? So we did have one new piece to the LCAP, and that is we were directed by the state of California to add in Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant funds that had not been fully expended yet. So if you'll read along with me up there, Madera Unified received $32,913,163, and this was in 22-23. That's when those grant dollars were originally allocated in Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant funding, and this was part of Assembly Bill 182. The Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant funds were allocated to California school districts to support learning recovery and accelerate academic achievement, particularly in response to learning loss caused by COVID-19. As of the conclusion of this fiscal year, we have about $5.5 million that remains unexpended at this point. Therefore, we're carrying over that dollar amount. And so that's what has to be allocated and shown in the current LCAP. So I took a little screenshot of a table there for you, and I'll point it out in the document as well. But that $5.5 million is going to be you'll see it in the LCAP in 5 new actions. So what we have to do is, in order to allocate those funds where we did, we had to do a needs assessment. And we conducted that needs assessment over all of our schools. And we utilized the data from the California dashboard, the 2024 California Schools dashboard. And these are the areas in which we chose to use our $5.5 million. So you'll see the first action, and this is a new action, and we'll talk about it again here in a minute, but this is to develop some additional support and actually implement some of our learning from what has happened in the past year with our middle school math initiative, which started as a summer academy opportunity and then was a winter academy opportunity and also a weekend. We did 10 weekends, and it is prioritizing long-term English learners and EL students. What we're doing throughout the school year is we lowered the class size in all of our middle school math classes at the comprehensive middle schools down to anywhere between 22 and 24. So we're going to lower the class sizes, which meant that each of the middle schools hired one more additional math teacher. And then we also are hiring what we're calling learning assistants. That is what you were asking about, Trustee Fleek. That's part of that contract with teaching fellows. So there will be essentially a college age tutor in the class to support all of our middle school classes 3 days a week. And so that will allow for opportunities for our teachers to really focus on scaffolding and small group instruction in those middle school math classes. We are able to easily identify in our district that middle school math is maybe the most significant area of need academically in our district. So we've taken what we've learned through our summer academy work, and we can't do all the things that we do in the summer academy, but there were certain things that we were able to implement, and we'll be doing that for the first time next year. Additionally, we also recognize that one, legislation calls for these cell phone pouches to be initiated in middle school and high schools. And we started that this year in our middle schools. We're expanding it to our high schools next year. And so we are going to utilize the dollars, some of the dollars from this to purchase the cell phone pouches that will be issued to every student in high school. And then we also have to do some replacement pouches in middle school. A third action that will be there, we are going to utilize this to continue to fund what we call our year-round substitute teachers. So this is not new, but it's been funded through this funding previously. And what that means is our elementary schools all have one substitute teacher who's on that campus every day to support in whatever way needed. So that obviously decreases the amount of Plan Bs that happen in our elementary schools and not having to deploy kids into other grade level classrooms. And then in the middle school and high school, they also have these year-round subs. So we're going to continue to fund those with these dollars. And then we are using these to provide the stipends for our teachers who sit on our strategic action plan teams for all of our schools. And there are a set amount of team members, and they're provided a stipend to participate on that. So these dollars are going to be used to support that. As you guys know, for our principals and our vice principals at all of our schools, these teams serve as in a leadership role to help guide and support the school site agreed upon initiatives. And then lastly is we still believe in the idea around teachers tutoring our kids, having certificated teachers tutor their own students. That has been something we've done since we came back from the pandemic. The research shows that it's one of the most effective ways to close gaps for student learning. The challenge is having enough staff to support sometimes our students in that nature outside of the duty day, but we are going to continue to allocate dollars to be provided for certificated staff to provide tutoring services for students after school. So that's the new part, and that's the only thing new, only that. And so nothing changed in the template. There was just one addition that is new for this year. So let's talk a little bit, just as a reminder, about the process and the timeline for this document. So for us, this is the second year. We coordinated something that I refer to as the LCAP strategic team. And we have a membership on that team that has students, parents, community members, our union partners, administrators from the district, site administrators, classified staff. And our job with that team is to 4 times, you'll see October, December, February, and April, we go through and we look at each of the goals and then the actions that are assigned to each goal. And we kind of take them through, we give them 4 questions to review. And that is the feedback that we use as we're going through and we do something that's required called the goal analysis. And so this is the second year we've done that. I've found it to be really effective and very helpful and helping us get more authentic feedback on the effectiveness of our actions that are in the LCAP. And so that team met 4 times this year. I mentioned this a minute ago. In February, we conducted the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant Needs Assessment. That was a template from the state. We had to dump in a bunch of numbers and statistics, and then it kind of spits out your overall areas of need. Many of you participate in PAC and DLAC. So we go through the process of meeting with PAC and DLAC in January, February, March, and then in April, they bring to the board their formal recommendations. And then in May, we give them a written response back to their recommendations. Also in May is when we really get to start putting the numbers to our work. So the governor's budget in the May revision comes out, and then that's what sort of allows for CFO Garcia and her team to start plugging in the numbers for us to actually make the budget align to the actions. And then in June, which is tonight, and then the final meeting in June, we will have a first and a second read of the document. We also, if you remember, the next meeting's everybody's favorite because we do the final read, we do a review of the local indicators that we have to report to the board, and then we also adopt the budget. And that's per ed code, that happens by law on the same night. So that will be at our meeting on June 24th. And then July 1st, I will push send to this document to Madera County Superintendent of Schools for them to begin their review process. Usually sometime towards the end of July, we meet with the staff from Madera County Superintendent of Schools. They give us their recommendations and feedback for any revisions, if there's any revisions. And we have sort of the month of August to do that. And then in September, we submit it officially, and then Madera County approves it in the month of September. So as you can see, we start the review process in October and we get it approved in September. So you can see essentially now the LCAP itself is not a single solitary moment in time where we bring a document forward, we approve it, and we put it away. It really is now an annual and ongoing piece of work. And I think, that's the true intent of the reason the LCAP was written and put into law the way it was. And so for us, it's not something that we do once and we put away. It really is part of the work ongoing year round. This is just a quick table of contents for you. And I'm going to take you through a few of the sections. So always at the beginning of each and every one of these, and if you wanted to follow along, you could go to page 3. But page 3 is where the budget overview for parents can be found. And the purpose of the overview for parents is supposed to provide an easy to understand look at the district's budget and how they are allocating their resources. Okay, so it's supposed to link our expenditures to our goals and our actions and services that are described in the document. The template is the template, and this is not something we create. This is something the state gives us, and we again punch in information and it spits it out to us to look like this. But this is just a short document that begins every LCAP that you look at in the state of California has a budget overview for parents. And that's the first thing that you see when you open the document. I don't know if I mentioned this, the way the book is laid out is not up for reason. We're given specific directions. So the budget overview is always the first. And then the actual body of the LCAP for us begins on page 7. So couple things to look at. When you look at the actual LCAP, it starts on page 7. Let's take a minute. I would like to turn everybody's attention to the engaged educational partner feedback. So this is a section that for us breaks down into 2 parts. So myself, area assistant superintendents, principals, lots of district office staff, we spend lots of time throughout the year meeting with lots of different partner groups and presenting about the LCAP and giving updates on the progress and sharing where the money is being allocated. This section, starting on page 21 in your booklet, is where we report that. And it's broken down into 2 sections. Starting on page 21, we have to list the educational partner group. And then basically you just identify the process that we went through. So when you're looking for us on pages 21 through 24, you're going to see who we met with, the dates we met with them, and if there was any feedback given, which by law we have to provide written feedback to DLAC and PAC, that's listed in there as well. When you then start on page 24, the second part of this section is talking about how the LCAP is being impacted or influenced by the feedback. So it's 2 sections. The first section is the process. So that is pretty sterile. It's like, here's who we met with, here's the dates that we did it. The section that you're probably, I know all are really excited to dive deep into this, that you would want to read on, is the part that starts on page 24, because this is where you can see, and I'll just take you to goal 1 on page 25. We address by group the areas that you will see reflected within the actions and the goals. So if you read this document, you're going to see that PAC, what those 3 bullet points in there, those are identifiable in the actions in goal 1. Okay. I want to make sure they're not going to be, you're not going to go, oh, PAC, and then look and say PAC is responsible for action 1.2. We don't necessarily write actions in that way, but what their areas that they identify, same for DLAC, same for the school community, students, union partners, those particular areas should be reflected in what are now 7 separate actions under goal 1. And so we did that for each and every goal. So you'll be able to look through here and say, you can look at goal 1, you can look at goal 2, goal 3, goal 4, and goal 5. What I will remind you is, if you look on page 31, and that's at the bottom of this little slide here, we have 4 equity multiplier schools. So that was one of the new parts of last year's LCAP, and that is that for every school that receives equity multiplier funds, they have to have an individual goal. And so for each of the goals, goal 6, 7, 8, and 9, which represents our 4 equity multiplier schools, you'll also see in here, because they have to run their own like mini committee. They have to have teachers and parents and students, and they have to run their own sessions for their school specifically in response to this. So you'll see that they also have a section in here that kind of identifies what their community is saying that they would like to see happen at their school in regards to the dollars allocated for those particular schools. So that section is it's pretty dense. We put it in table form this year because I felt like reading it in a table made it a little easier to digest, as opposed to putting a whole bunch of just bullet points for you there. So it does look a little bit different than it did in last year's document, but hopefully that works better for you in terms of being able to see how our LCAP is influenced by the partners that we meet with. And if you've forgotten who that is, I've listed it for you. So we have the strategic planning team. We have our parent advisory committee. We meet with our district English language advisory committee. we meet with MUDA, we meet with CSEA. Every principal in the district holds their own school community meeting. So every principal holds a meeting where their community families come in and they solicit feedback. We work with our ASB presidents at our high school. So last year, Ed Code was released. This next year's the first year it's required. We actually started a year in advance, where you have to have student voice as part of your PAC. So my board members up here who are part of the PAC, they know that we have students that attend that. Those are the same kids that I work with. For us, it's our ASB presidents, and they come in and they meet with myself and the activities directors, and we develop questions and they do feedback surveys and whatnot. And we utilize that feedback to come up with what the students give us in terms of what they think would help their experience at school. I will give a call out. A year ago, Mount Vista didn't have any student responses. And so we were troubled by that. And this year, they got 100% response. So some of you have met Jalissa, who is here. She's a go-getter. And she wasn't having that her school wasn't represented in the LCAP last year. And she went out and got 100% of students at her school to respond to the feedback survey. And she also advocated for her school that what we needed to know about Mount Vista was different than maybe the comprehensives. So she actually helped me write questions that were more specific to the alt ed sites. So I know she's not here, but she's fantastic. And so Mount Vista had 100% student response for their feedback surveys, which is incredible. Yeah, it was really great. Oh, wait. Go back here. We also get feedback from Simba. I will tell you, we have reached out to the SELPA. I don't want to tell you that we've gotten feedback and we haven't. We had a meeting scheduled and it was canceled. And then we were told that we would get feedback back via email, which as of today, we have not. So we'll keep working with the SELPA director to get that. So in the document right now is the feedback that she gave us from last year. That'll be revised as soon as we get the updated feedback from Ms. Etheridge. And then we also are able to take feedback on the website, like on the district's website. There's a LCAP button on there that if you want to provide feedback, community members can provide feedback on there as well. All right. So the next section that is really the meat and potatoes of the document is where you have the actual goals. And then within each goal, we have the actions. So couple things. I feel like I got a little out of order and I apologize for that. I already talked about the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant Funds. You will see that in the plan summary that starts on page 7, we had to identify in there that we had Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant Funds that we were carrying forward. That little screenshot of the table that I showed you up here, that's from that section in there. The other piece that is updated in that first section, if you look at starting on page 10 under the reflections and annual performance. So some of the components of the document are not revisable or changeable. So when we wrote this document, the state identified schools and student groups and then district-wide areas that were performing in the lowest performance level. So starting on page 10, this was when we wrote this document, the areas that had the lowest performance level. Okay. So that is still there. But as you go and you look on page 13, on 13, we updated it with our 2024 California dashboard information. So we did highlight in there some schools that moved out of the lowest performing area, some student groups that moved out of the lowest performing area, but you'll also see in some cases at some schools, certain groups moved in. So it's fluid every year. based on the California School Dashboard. But the part that you see that's in the table form, that was from last year, that has to stay in there. We just sort of added the 24 dashboard summary to show you where there was highlights and then where challenges still remain. And then the other pieces, on page 17 is where, if you are a district who is in what is referred to as differentiated assistance, that's another thing per the California School Dashboard. We, in the past, have been eligible in multiple areas. We've kind of had an array of student groups or areas to choose from. We actually, for the first time ever, only qualified in one area, and that was with our foster youth students. So you'll see, starting on page 17, is our plan to address the improvement of chronic absenteeism for our foster students. And that's a process that Assistant Superintendent Marshall is leading through his department with the support of Director Bonilla. And that is work that will kind of be encompassed for this year. Differentiated assistance changes every year. So every year the dashboard comes out, every year you look at your indicators on the dashboard, and there's some criteria that we have to meet. And then we are, asked to focus on an area. Again, in the past, we went through a process just to decide who we were going to support because we had a number of areas. This year was the first year we didn't. We only had one area, and that was foster youth students. So that's where we are putting our energy this year. And then for the first time ever, yay, Madera Unified, we don't have any comprehensive school improvement schools. And that's for the first time, as long as we've had an LCAP and we've been going through this process, Madera Unified has had multiple schools in what we call CSI status. And this was the first year ever we don't. So there's been a lot of good work that has gone into ensuring that we don't have any schools in CSI status, and we're proud of that. So now let's go to the goals. So the big part that I mentioned earlier of this is when you look, and you can start on page 35, if you will, the way each of the goals is laid out for you. And we tabbed it for you. Hopefully you like that. Now you can just look to your tab and it's there for you. Each section is laid out the exact same way. You have the goal, you have the goal description, then you have an explanation of why the LEA chose the goal, and then you have what's called the measuring and reporting results. So that's where we set our data analytics, and we say we set growth goals, we set reclassification goals, we set participation goals, anything that has to do with that particular goal, we set that. That section can be revised annually. Okay, so as an example, if we set a goal for a certain number of students to be reclassified, and we exceed that goal in the first year, we wouldn't want to keep that as our goal. So we can go and change that in response to how our students are performing. So I want you to see that the first part of that section is your metrics. And then on page 37, you get to the goal analysis. That is probably the biggest part of the work that we do. That is the state's expectation that we look at each individual action in the LCAP, and there are 4 questions that we're prompted to answer, and we have to look at every action under each goal, and we have to respond to those prompts. So we have to look at the overall implementation of the action. We have to address if there's any concerns with the budget, meaning say we allocated $1 million and we only spent 200,000. We would have to say, why did you only spend $200,000 if you allocated $1 million? We kind of go with a 10% one way or another. So if we're 10% over or 10% under, the state expects us to explain how we had that distance between our estimated budget and the actual budget. We also have to talk about the effectiveness or ineffectiveness of each and every action. And then the fourth prompt is asking you, okay, now you've looked at all your actions, you've looked at your metrics, what needs to change for next year? And so what I want to show you here is on the right-hand side, I took a screenshot of just, that's what you'll see as you guys take your time to go through each individual goal. Prompt 4 is the one, if you really want to dive into it, look at prompt 4, because prompt 4 is in response to if an action within a goal was ineffective, we have to address what we're going to do to make it effective. If we exceeded our expectations and the metrics, we've already exceeded our metrics, we have to share there that we're going to change our metrics. If out of the feedback and out of commentary from community members, community partners, that we're going to add actions, we have to say right there that there's a need in this area, so we're going to have a new action next year. So prompt 4 in each of the goals is the area, if you don't want to read every piece of the analysis, that's the piece that I would recommend you look at. So for each goal area, that fourth prompt is going to be the description of any of the changes that we're making to a goal, a metric, an outcome, or an action for the coming year.
Excuse me, where can we see prompt 4?
It's going to be, so if you just want to look on goal 1, okay? So let's go back. So goal 1 starts on page 35, right? Okay, so you've got the description. You've got the state priorities that are addressed. Then you've got the explanation of the goal. Okay, then we talked, you've got your metrics. Okay, and then you see about in the middle of page 37 where it says goal analysis. Okay, in the blue box is the prompt. Okay, so that's prompt 1. And then underneath prompt 1, it just so happens that in goal 1, there were 6 actions we had to review. So you're going to see 6 responses there. Okay, then look on page 39. Okay. Those are the prompts. Yep. So then if you look at 39, that's the budget prompt. Okay. And then you'll see the one that says a description of effectiveness or ineffectiveness. Okay. And we have to go through, and when we did this work together, we had rubrics that we provided for each of the groups and we gave them criteria. And then look on page 40. See about midway. See that blue box? So for each section in here that is listed goal 1, goal 2, all the way through goal 9, it's set up this exact same way. Okay. And each one of these will have that fourth prompt. And that's the one where if you, not that you shouldn't, you absolutely should read the whole document, but that's going to give you insight into what the changes are going to be made and why they're being made. The fourth prompt, yep, that's the one. Okay, so that's called the analysis section. And we have to do that annually, and we have to do it for every action in the LCAP within every goal.
Got a question.
Yep.
On page 36 at the top. 1.2, reclassification percentage has dropped to about almost, well, 3.5%.
Mm-hmm.
You have any idea why?
So the reclassification rate, and one of the things you'll notice here actually is look at page 37, we added an additional metric around reclassification because, so to answer your question, do I know why the number dropped? Yes, because it means initially less students scored a 4 on the LPAC. So to even qualify to reclassify, a student has to score a 4 on the LPAC, which is the state exam.
At what grade level is that?
every grade level.
Any grade level.
It gets harder when the kids get older.
It does jump. There's certain, like, it's kind of the same type of test. So like in K1, 2, it's read to them because they're not readers yet. So they take it and somebody takes it. It's a one-on-one model. When they get into third grade, it's definitely harder because now they're taking the test for the first time on their own because now they're considered readers in third grade. So it does increase, I would say, in difficulty, but it doesn't every year. There's like bands in which it increases. So to start with, we knew going into this year that our reclassification rate would be lower because we had less students who scored a 4 on the LPAC to start with. Okay. The way this is calculated though, it looks at every single student in our district who's an English learner. So if you take a child that enters in kinder and they take the LPAC, their kinder year, first grade year, we don't really expect to start seeing kids who join us in kinder who are English learners. We expect them to reclassify starting in third or fourth grade. But we have our highest number of English learners in kinder, first and second, because when they enroll, our younger grades have the highest number of ELs. So it can depend a lot on if there was a large number of students that are in kinder, first and second. There's a lot of different pieces there. What we're going to do now is we're going to create a different look, and that is, let's look at all the kids who scored a 4 on the LPAC. Let's take that number of kids, all the kids who actually received the 4, and let's talk about how many of them reclassified, because our goal there should be 100%. If they can get a 4 on the LPAC, we should get them across the finish line. So this year, for our kids who got a 4 on the LPAC, which there was a little over 500 of them, 89% were able to be reclassified. So that number looks at the kids who actually received a score to even start the reclassification process. So we've had a lot of dialogue around this because it seems like, gosh dang, only, not even 10% of our kids are reclassifying when you look at the reclassification rate as a district, because you take that number of 5,622 kids. Well, of that 5,622, probably a third are K1, 2. And we don't really like the system. Some of them do reclassify. We do reclassify kinder, first and second grade students, but the majority you start seeing reclassify third, fourth, fifth, and sixth grade. That's the sweet spot right there is those grade levels. So we would love to see annually us reclassifying 20% of our total population. That would be a really amazing accomplishment for us. But we're really focusing on, let's look at those kids who are getting the 4 on the LPAC, and then let's try to reclassify 100% of those kiddos. Okay. Okay. So for each of the goals in the book, that takes you through a look at what we're doing annually to review. When you get to starting, we'll just use goal 1 as our example on page 41. Okay. Those actions and descriptions really, and the action titles cannot be changed. You'll see that those stay the same throughout. What we can do is add any new actions that we found. So you'll remember, we said we were adding a new action in goal 1. So if you look on page 45, you'll see there's a brand new action there, and that's the middle school math support with focus on English learners, prioritizing our LTELs, RFEPs, and newcomer students. So what I want to call your attention to for just a minute is, if you look at goals 1 through 5, there's only 6 new actions total, and they're in that table in the front, and they're in the table in your presentation. Okay. So there's a total of 6 new actions in goals 1 through 5. And we updated or changed 7 metrics or outcomes in goals 1 through 5. So it's very little change. Okay, most all of it is staying consistent. In the equity multiplier schools, which is goals 6 through 9, in that case, those plans are more fluid and they are revised annually. So if you were to get your last year's LCAP and look at it next to this year's, you'll see some differences. But that process is more fluid because we're addressing an individual school with student needs, and they're trying to write those plans based on exactly what they see the needs are right there at their schools for the coming year. So Easton Arcola and Furman, they didn't change much of what they plan to do with their money, but they had such good success this year. They already met their goal. So they increased their metrics, basically. They raised their percentage that they want for their students' attendance rate to increase, because what they set this year, they already exceeded that. When you look at Mount Vista and Ripperton, they both added an additional action to their plan, and then they also had to revise some metrics and their outcomes. So when you look at those, you'll see that they have some revisions, both in their actions and their outcomes. But those, again, those are fluid. The state expects us annually to review those and make changes to those plans because they're based on the students' needs at that school. Okay. I remembered last year that you all really liked this document or this form of the document because it gave you an easy way to look at the actions, the titles, and the budget. And then you could see on the left, if we're looking over this wall, I don't know which wall that is.
I think this
Go
one's
this
probably the
one?
best one for.
If it's got the little circle with the arrows, that means it's an ongoing action. And then at the little bottom, it has the little new. That'll tell you, again, that's another way to be able to identify that it's a new action in this year's LCAP. Okay. So in goal 1, our total allocated budget is $5,436,212. And that's each action listed there for you and the dollars allocated to that. When you look at goal 2, you'll see that there was 5 actions here. Now there's 6. So you'll see there at the bottom, we have the new action there. This is one that came from DLAC. I know Trustee Salazar was there that night when we were wrestling around with what DLAC really wanted to recommend, and what we came away with was opportunities for students and families of English learners to be able to engage in trips to colleges, like learn more about colleges, but also learn more about careers. And so this is a brand new initiative. And I actually just met with Director McKenna today. They're scheduling at least 2 college trips for next year, and then they're going to set up some opportunities for employers to come in and speak specifically. And again, this is specific, really prioritizing our English learner students in this particular action. 712. Yep. Goal 3 is optimal learning environments. Something to show you here. I want you to see that action 3 and 4, you notice they don't have anything there. So we are not moving forward with those currently. And what I mean is there's no budget being allocated there. So the first one is under diverse staff recruitment. This was an initiative that we put in there because we were trying to hire teachers from outside of the country and bring them in and teach here. And that has unfortunately not been successful. And with the current state that we're in, trying to recruit and bring teachers in from Mexico just doesn't seem right now like something we're going to be able to engage in. There have been a lot of challenges. We had one young lady who joined us and from Honduras, and she flew home on the Friday, the last day of school. So we're not giving up on it forever, but for right now, we're not allocating any budget to that. And then right underneath that is the employee career advancement. So that's the career ladder work. We were contracting with NCEE to do that work. We now have Assistant Superintendent Rodriguez and Assistant Superintendent Ayalo facilitating that work. So it's not needed to have a contract there. So the work is still going to happen with that, but there is no dollars allocated there. So, and that's the only two actions that you'll see throughout the document that are unfunded, but they can't be removed. So they got to stay in the document. We just are going to show that there's $0 allocated. And then under goal 3, there's the 2 new actions, 10 and 11. Will you grab my water? I'm froggy. I apologize. We look at goal 4. This is the big one. This is maximize student achievement. Again, there are 2 new actions there at the bottom in action 16 and 17. So you can easily identify those. Then goal 5 is our high quality operational services. The budget is there, no new actions assigned there. And then I did throw a slide in here with our equity multiplier schools. You can see the budget that they were allocated from the state. And then for each of the schools, I listed their updated school goal for you. You can reference that. Next is, if you look on page 129.
Can I have a question though?
You can ask a question. Of course you can.
On Mountain Vista.
Yep.
One of the goals is the overall reduce or suspension rate.
Yep.
Okay, so I wonder at what cost? That means you're not gonna be as strict? Or you're not gonna hold the kids accountable, so you don't have as high suspension rate, or how are they gonna?
Well, no, that wouldn't be the way we're going to reduce the suspension rate. What I believe, if we look at Mr. Tobin's plan, which I don't know it off the top of my head, he's online, he can address it as well, but let me go to goal 8. So what he's planning to do for his, he's going to increase supplemental and support staff. So he's hiring additional staff to support the students to meet their social emotional needs and their academic challenges. Okay. And he's also going to continue to provide opportunities to increase their student engagement opportunities and increase academic supports. So it's not about lowering the expectations or just not suspending. It's about building his school with systems that better support the students. And again, part of the equity multiplier requirement is they're identified by the state because of something called an instability factor. So their attendance rate fluctuates, and you have to look at the dashboard, and you're supposed to, based on their dashboard, identify areas of improvement. So based on Mount Vista's dashboard, suspension rate is something that they need to work on. So that's the connection to the equity multiplier and the suspension rate. Mr. Tobin, I know you're out there if you have anything you would like to add.
So the fund.
Yeah, so are you guys able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yes, President Seibert, no, it doesn't mean that we're lowering our expectation for student behavior, but what we're trying to do by hiring an extra intervention specialist counselor is we're trying to find alternative methods to help correct negative behaviors at our site without having students suspended off campus. So an example of that could be if a student shows up in the morning and let's say maybe a student has a vape pen on them, but they're not under the influence, rather than sending that student home and having them sitting at home where they're losing out on educational time or learning time for the behavior that they're displaying, what we do is that student will spend either half the day or the full day, depending on how long it takes them. They will be with one of our intervention specialist counselors, and they go through a program that we have through Compass 360, which talks about substance use disorders with young people. It talks about the negative impacts on it. It's like a self-paced course, but our intervention specialist goes through it with them. We still make parent contact. We'll bring the parents in. We talk to them. Obviously, we confiscate the item. But what we're doing is we're trying to keep students in the learning environment as much as possible without just sending them home. And having that additional intervention specialist helps with it. And then also just sometimes for some of the students at our alternative ed sites, they might need a little extra support for disruptive behaviors in the classroom, or maybe just displaying some things that don't always lend well to their own learning. Sometimes our students get in, they can get in their own way of learning. And so rather than just sending them home sometimes to situations that aren't always the best for them, this provides us an opportunity to still have some consequences, but not be putting them out of school for 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 days.
My other question is, then how's that position?
Through this.
It's funded through the equity multiplier funds. That's what,
That's not part of our Prop 98 money or our general fund, not out of our general fund, it's special grant money.
Aurelis, equity multiplier funds are, they're state funds. Yeah,
So they are from Prop 98, probably. I mean, I'm sure that's the origin because that's where general funds come from, right? And this is LCAP. These are LCFF funds, but they're extra LCFF funds specific to these schools.
yeah. So they're not LCFF funds. That's always the fun part. They're not LCFF funds, but they have to be in the LCAP.
Okay, so this money can come and go.
It's temporary, only upon when you qualify for it.
Instability.
So just if you take a quick look at it, we have 3 alternative ed sites in secondary and then 1 K-8. The three alt ed sites have always had challenges with attendance. And that's historic. That's never not been the case. Every single year they've ever been open, they have challenges with attendance. That's part of the reason kids need an alternative placement. And then Eastern Arcola has a really large migrant population that comes and goes throughout the year. That's how they have this instability rate. That's why that's why they qualify for these funds.
So these funds aren't negotiable.
No, No, it's,
Nor are they meant to be ongoing either. I mean, we're supposed to work our way out of it. But I mean, these are 4 schools that would be, historically speaking, almost, I don't want to say impossible, but it would be really challenging to work our way out of these things because of the nature of the student clientele that we serve there.
Okay, thank you.
okay. So let's look. Thank you, Mr. Tobin.
Yes, you're welcome. Did you have any other questions for me, President Liber?
No, good. Right
No,
now.
he's good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So when you look at, starting on page 129, this is the section around increased and improved services. You guys hear us use the terminology supplemental and concentration grant funds. So we are projected to get $90,451,541 for this upcoming year. And the actions that are listed here, they're not new or different actions. They're also listed in each individual area, but we have to then bring the ones that we're using supplemental and concentration grant funding for. And then we have to do a little deeper dive into the state says, okay, you're using these funds that are generated by low-income students, English learners, and foster youth. that money has to be principally directed to those groups. So when you look at this section, you'll see under like the first column, it says identified needs. We highlight and underline the group that it's principally directed to. Okay, so in the first part of this, there are actions that we would say are LEA-wide or school-wide actions. All of the ones that are listed here for us in this first section are what we would call LEA-wide. So there's something that's happening across all schools across the district. If you then look over at page 152, you'll see there at the top, it says limited actions. So the difference between the LEA-wide and the school-wide actions, which there's 29 of those, and then the limited actions, which there's 5. Limited actions are specific to one group. So you'll see they're like English learners. Goal 1, action 2 is specific to English learners. Goal 1, action 3 is specific to English learners. Goal 1, action 4, specific to English learners. So when it's specific to a student group, then that's where you see those under limited actions. So for Madera Unified, we have a total of 34 funded actions that are using that supplemental and concentration grant funding, and 29 of them are LEA-wide actions, and 5 of them are limited actions. Yep. And this, the way that the template was changed last year was, it was different for us because again, I think the state was really trying to find a way to hold LEAs accountable to ensuring that the dollars that were generated by the unduplicated pupils were actually being directed to the unduplicated pupils. So for us, as you all well know, we're 91% low income. So that's where the largest, that's where like our largest student population, and they're only counted once, so they're unduplicated, right? So the largest portion of our students fall in that low income student category, which is why so many of our actions end up being LEA wide, because such a high percentage of our students fall in that low income category. In the limited actions, those are the actions there. We have 1 in there that's for foster youth, and then I think 5 that are specific for English learners only. So yes, to answer your question, that those dollars are all specifically in here, and you can read in there what the identified need is, how we're going to address it, and then how we're going to monitor it. So that's all called out in that section. So the last thing is for you guys to obviously be able to spend a little time looking at this. I know in the past, I've always made myself available for any questions that you might have between now and the 24th. I am still available to do that, with the exception of I'm getting on a plane and heading to Oaxaca on Friday, and I won't be back until the 22nd. So Director Bonilla is definitely able, he knows this book like the back of his hand. We've also had the luxury of having Jesse Carrasco, who's been on special assignment this year, supporting this work. He's also he's retiring, but he's still with us. He's had a hand in this. So there's plenty of people here that can meet with you if you have questions that you want to dive further into. But this will come back to you on June 24th for approval. That same night, you'll be approving the budget. That same night, we'll do our local indicator presentation, which is amazing and exciting. And I'll leave you on the edge of your seats. And then as soon as that's done, I'm going on vacation. No, I'm just kidding. And then we'll submit it in July and we'll start it all over again.
Right. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. So
I do have a question. So, I know with ISET, we, I think the calendas or the Guelaguetza was kind of born from that we're now performing at Washington Elementary School, right? And it was a great experience when I went to Oaxaca with the group of teachers. But what else are we getting out of that program?
So we're not contracting with ISET anymore. So that was a 3-year partnership.
Okay.
So you will see in your bundle that you approved tonight that we
I
do
didn't see
not
it on
have,
there, right?
yeah, we do not have a contract. We're going to support all that work internally. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, yes.
Or
just-
is it the cultural exchange opportunity that you're asking about?
No, that's all great and, great experience, great cultural exchange. But in terms maybe more of how they're helping us move the needle in terms of, where they were helping us move the needle in terms of academic achievement.
Oh, so with ISET?
Yes.
Yeah, so ISET was always only a 3-year contract. They came in, they gifted us with amazing amounts of knowledge and will continue to carry that work forward. But we've built the internal capacity to lead that work in educational services in both elementary, secondary, and multilingual programs. Yep.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
okay. Thank you.
Okay.
That was no small feat. Let's just acknowledge that. And let's just acknowledge the level of specificity and detail that the two of you have mastered at this point. Thank you for that. It's nothing short of miraculous. Appreciate it very much.
I'm not doing all that. Okay, item number 11B1, fiscal services, present and discuss the 2025-26 preliminary budget. Superintendent Lyle.
So speaking of miracles, here's CFO Garcia, because in the next couple of years, the way things look, we may need a few. It's a good thing you're kind of a miracle worker. CFO Garcia, the floor is yours.
Good evening again, President Cyber, Clerk Mendoza, Trustees, Superintendent Lyle. This is the presentation of the estimated actuals for 24-25 and the preliminary budget for 25-26. Long presentation, so you got a copy of the presentation and you also have the beautiful book that you will memorize in the next few days. So I'll try to go quick, but if you have any question, please feel free to ask. So first, I'm going to start with this disclaimer, and it's that MUSD is currently in open negotiations with the union partners, the labor partners, and no tentative agreement has been signed or approved. And all financial data in this presentation do not include any negotiated salaries for the current year or next year or future years. So, but the budget does include raises for salaries due to movement in the stepping columns, and they are included in current year, next year, and multi-year projections. So we're going to review the May revision, the enrollment and attendance, revenue expenditures, ending balance and reserve, the checkbook balance, the projected cash flow, multi-year projections, interfund transfer, multi-year ending balance and reserve, other funds, and our beautiful section OPEB trust. So in the May revision, what it included in the governor's budget was the LCFF increase of 2.3% cost of living adjustment or COLA. It will continue funding the universal TK, additional funding to lower the classrooms to 10 to 1 students per adult. So that means that now in next year, we're going to have a teacher and a para, but it cannot be more than 20 students in that classroom. And so for that reason, you approve to
hire more paraprofessionals for the next year, and you will see it in the new positions that I have in there. ELOP will still be funded at the same level as current year. So our district received around 25 million in ELOP. So we're expecting the same amount for next year. Now, the state is proposing a change that is gonna lower the unduplicated pupil percent to qualify for ELOP. In the past, that percentage has been 75%. For our district, no problem. We are at 91%, so we qualify. Now they are lowering to 55%, so more districts will qualify for ELOP. Literacy investment, additional funds to ensure alignment in the implementation of the California research-based framework, and that will be for literacy and also math. So we don't know if that is going to bring us more funding, but until we receive notification, we'll add that to the budget. The total funding levels of 25-26 relies on the LCFF payment deferrals that is proposing on the budget, the government's budget, June 2026 defer to July 2026. So instead of getting the payment from the state in June, we're gonna get it in July. For our district, it means about $18 million that we're not gonna receive in June. So for that reason, that's where our reserve steps in. We can wait, for that month to be paid because our district has been financially stable and we have a good reserve to wait for the payment. And we have enough cash in our bank that we're not in need to borrow. The enrollment and attendance, it's declining or flat, and it's more declining than flat. So 24-25, our enrollment was 20,184. That includes the students that are served by the county that are in our boundaries because they are included in how the LCFF is calculated. So our actual attendance was 18,655 or 92%. But our funded ADA is 19,026 or 94%. The state is using the 3-year average. Now for next year, you can see the enrollment is projected at 20,000 to 28 with an attendance of 18,695 or that 92%, but our funded ADA is getting lower. Why? Because as we get lower ADA every year, that 3-year average gets lower too. So we're expecting at 93% funded ADA next year. So that means less revenue. So 1% ADA decline, it equals to about $3 million that we're losing in ADA in revenue for that ADA. We're receiving average about $16,544 per ADA. So if we have, an increase of ADA of 187, that is 1%. So we'll receive additional $3 million. So now the next year, starting in 25-26, the state is implementing the new program called Attendance Recovery. So we'll offer attendance recovery, and it's a new program. So, and we don't have all the plan yet how we're going to implement it, but we have Director Suzanne Dutney from the after school program, and also the Assistant Superintendent of Leadership, Horacio Rodriguez, and myself and Director Allison Crafton, that we are getting together to develop the program and how, when we're gonna offer it. And that program will be besides the 180 days of school, regular school. So it is to bring students to recover their absences and also receive more instruction so they don't get behind. So that will bring us additional funding but of course, we don't know how much it's gonna generate, how the state is gonna calculate it, but we're gonna start slow and learn from it and then make it better every year. The general fund revenue for 24-25 was updated, and our estimate is $436.7 million. It includes the Stir on Behalf that I always talk about, and it's 12.9 million for 24-25. The unrestricted side is 287.2 million, restricted 149.5. The LCFF revenue itself is 307.5 million. That includes the 1% COLA for current year. For 25-26, the estimated revenue for 113 million. It includes 13.3 in Stirs on Behalf. And remember that that is just showing in our books what the state is contributing to that retirement for on behalf of our employees. Unrestricted is 286.2 million. It's 1 less million the current year. And the restricted 126.8 million or 22.7 million less than the current year. The LCFF revenue, 310.5 million, and it's just, 3 million more than the year before. And that includes the 2.3 COLA that we're receiving in next year. In the graph, you can see the percentages. So the LCFF is the majority of our funds coming in, and current year is 70% of our revenue, and next year is 75%. LCFF and what Associate Superintendent Cecil was referring to supplemental and concentration there. General fund expenditures. So for 24-25, expenditures are at 503.6 million, includes also the Stir on Behalf that is in the revenue. 324 million is for salary and benefits, or 64% of our budget, expenditure budget is just for salaries and benefits. Or special education, one of the biggest programs that we fund, is 44.7 million this year. Routine repair and maintenance, 15.9 million. And the state requires that at least 3% of the budget is allocated for that program to maintain our facilities in good stand. Transportation, we have 9.8 million, and we are including $500,000 that we use this year to buy a new bus and 4 student activities vans. Utilities, 8.5 million. So that includes all our utilities, including solar. And so the salaries and benefits, as I mentioned, was 64% of the budget. Books and supplies is 12%. Services is 13.3%. In capital outlay or equipment that costs more than 5,000, we spent 7%. And then we had the indirect and transfers out to other funds, it's 4%. For 25-26, we have the expenditure budget up 463.4. The difference between the 2 years, remember in the current year, we have carryover in there. So that is, we carry over about 88 million from last year, from the prior year to current year for restricted funds. So that's why you see that that difference in there. So the current year the 25-26 463.4 is just revenue and expenditures. We don't have any carryover in there and no deferred revenue. So once we close the books for 24-25, any funds that are not spent in this year, we're gonna either carry over the revenue or the budget for expenditures for the money that we already received. So it will get bigger, but for now, this is what we are estimating. 331.5 million in salaries and benefits, or 72% of the budget. Special education, 47 million. And the difference that you see there, about 2.3 million, is those contracts that we have to approve for the speech and language pathologist services that we closed the positions in January, and because we're not able to find them, and we have to contract out for those services. Routine repair in maintenance, we have 13.5 millions in the budget. And again, that 3%, we make sure that we meet that. Transportation, 9.4, and utilities, 8.9. So you can see that we have to increase it a little bit to make sure that inflation is covered. So, and the graphs, you can see our expenditures, salary and benefits are the biggest chunk of the pie. 64% in 24-25 and 72% in 25-26. And that is including unrestricted and restricted funds. I have another table later on that I'm gonna show you both separated in the last 5 years, how the percentages look. Oh, it's the next one, right there. Okay, click one more time, please, right there. So you see the table here is showing you from 1920 to next year, what the restricted expenditures have been. Of course, 1920 to 23-24 are actuals. The 24-25 is estimated actuals, and the 25-26 is the adopted budget. So salaries and benefit costs, you can see that column there, how much we have spent on salaries and benefits, and the whatever increase from the prior year to the following year. So we're always increasing, never decreasing in unrestricted. And the percentage of salaries and benefits, you see that it's always been in the 80s, either 81, 81, 90. Then we have 3 years that went down to 76, 77, and those are the COVID funds. The COVID years. So it was the influx of one-time funds and money that was not for salaries. So the money that was given to us for COVID, it was for personal protective equipment. Remember, we bought a bunch of PPE and plexiglass and racing desks and filters and a lot of things that were not salaries.
So the pie got bigger
Yes.
just
and
for
you
those
will
3
see- and-
years with one-time funds.
Correct. And you will see that I have a slide showing that piece too. So 24-25, we're back to the 82%, and 25-26, 81% as of right now. The next, click one more time. So here is the restricted side, and you see the percentage is different because most of our positions are funded with unrestricted, and restricted has less positions or salaries and benefits. So we were, 69% in 1920, and then 58, 64. Why? Because now we have new grants, and we have new, also the COVID funds were included in there. And you can see that it's more fluctuation on the percentage of the salaries and benefits in the restricted side. And you see those two numbers in red. So that means that the salaries and benefits are decreasing, and it's because, remember those positions that we started with COVID funds and one-time funds, that we as a district decided that we're gonna start those positions. For example, the elementary electives, the teachers, the specials, we started that program with COVID funds. And so now those positions move to the unrestricted side. The mentor program, we started those paying with COVID funds. Then we move them already to the unrestricted side. So that's why you see a negative increase or decrease in the restricted, because we're moving those positions now to be funded with unrestricted dollars. That was planned. We have the strategy of doing that. That's why we committed the funds in the ending fund balance. So, but yes, go ahead. Next. Okay. So in January, I brought to you the new positions that we wanted to add for the 25-26, and they are listed in there. And I just want to point out that the majority of them are the paraprofessionals, and that is to meet the requirement of 10-1 in the TK classroom, and also some paraprofessionals for the special needs, physical impaired, and autism. Okay. So one more. So here is, I'm showing you the pie, how it was in 1920. And I'm showing you the portion, the blue portion of the pie is what the MURA members cost in 1920. And then the rest of the pie is other costs. So salaries, supplies, services, contracts, utilities, everything else in the other cost. So one more, a quick, right there. So the 24, now we're comparing that to the 24-25. So you see the difference in millions. In 1920, we have only we spent 260 million in expenditures. In current year, we are in 503 million. So we may not spend it all, but you can see that we almost double. And so the current reality is that one-time funds had an impact on the spending pattern. So the district won't see a return to the pre-pandemic spendings due to the one-time funds and the new grants that the district has been receiving. So that's why, and click one more time. Right there in that little square, I listed all the grants and one-time funds that the district is receiving in current year. That 93 million is made of all those grants. So if we remove the 93.5 out of the pie, that 26% that is for the MURA members cost will go up to 32%. Any questions? Okay. Few board meetings ago, President Holder brought a graph that show you that how the percentage of the expenditure budget, how the percentage was getting lower for the MURA members. And that is correct. That green line is the same graph that he presented to you. It is true, but it's for some factors that have contributed to that. One is that new money that is coming in that is for specific expenditures. ELOP, we cannot use it for salary increases. All the other grants like the Prop 28, we cannot use it for, we can hire new employees, new positions, but we cannot give a salary increase from there. You can see the number of days on the calendar. It fluctuates for the teachers. They approve their own calendar, and that's the number of days that they work, and that's the number of days that we pay them. So you can see in 1920, we have 183 days. In 2021, we have 191 days. And even though it was 191 days in 2021, we were at 33%. But then in 21-22, that percentage started decreasing. Why? Because we got the COVID funds start coming in. So the pie got bigger. And so the portion of the pie got smaller. And so for 24-25, we have the 183 days. In 25-26 is gonna be 184 days. And so that percentage is gonna increase a little for one more day. In average, a teacher for one day is about $500. So losing, 4 days, it's about $2,000 per teacher that their salary decreases. So that's the reason the percentage is getting lower, but you can see the dollar amount doesn't get lower. It's always going up every year. The next one is our CSEA members. So I did the same thing, and you can see the percentage for this group is between 11 and 12%. And what happened with the classified employees is that their calendar is the same every year. It doesn't fluctuate. They work the same amount of days every year. And so in 22-23, we that had a little increase, and that it was the year that we paid the student champion stipend. So every employee in the district received $5,000. And so we spend about 13 million on that stipend for all employees in the district. So that is reflected there. On 23-24, we have the salary study that was done and completed, and some of the positions had a change in range. So they had an increase in salary, and we had to retro pay all the way to July. And so that is reflected on 23-24. And 24-25 is back at 11. And then next year we have those new positions, 30 positions in paraprofessionals that we're adding. So that is what you're seeing in 25-26. I don't have that number on the top of my head, but I can get it to you.
I almost have the number in my head, but I don't want to say it because I don't know that I'm right. So sorry about that. We split it into two pieces. I do remember because the price tag was quite high and we were looking at having a budget shortfall with a really small COLA that year. Didn't look great.
Okay, so I did the same thing for management, and this one includes certificated and classified, all management. And as you can see, the piece of the pie for this group is only between 5 and 4%. And you see the slightly decrease, and it's for the same reason, the increase on restricted funds, because all the most of the administrators are paid with unrestricted general fund. So the estimated ending balance and reserve. So for 24-25, we're estimating the ending balance of 118 million. And from there, we take the non-spendable and then the restricted funds. We have 22.8 million that we are having to carry over. Assigned 682,000. And then we have the committed funds. And I've been talking to you quite often when I come and present to you about the committed funds. So those committed funds are the ones that are covering the shortfall between the revenue and the expenditures covered with the unrestricted funds, and also those positions that we're moving from restricted to unrestricted. So the adjusted ending balance, 51.4 million, and we have the expenditures at 503 million. So that if you do the division there is the 10% reserve that we want to hit, and the board has it's their goal to have a 10% reserve. For 25-26, the ending balance is estimated at 67.6 million. Again, the non-spendable is there, and that is for inventory and or petty cash. Restricted funds, you see that that is 0 in 25-26 because now those 22.8 million are included in the budget for 25-26. And then they assign 682,000 there. And you see the committed funds now from 42 to 22 million. Why? Because we are using the funds for positions moved from restricted to unrestricted for 24-25 and 25-26. And remember, it's ongoing, like we're covering these positions and we're waiting for that revenue, you know, to catch up to be able to fund these positions. Positions paid with federal grant no longer available. And if the board is aware, we are losing one grant federal funds, that is the school-based mental health. And we were awarded 8 million for that grant for 4 years. And we got the notification that that grant is gonna stop and we're gonna have funds only to December 31st. So half of the year for the employees funded with that position, we're gonna use unrestricted general funds to cover them. So those positions cost about 1.8 million. So about half of that is gonna be covered with the unrestricted general fund. And we're gonna bring our recommendation to the board when we do core staffing for 26-27, what we're gonna do with those positions. As I mentioned, the committed funds are also covering the deficit between new revenue and new expenditures covered by LCFF, and also the new actions in the LCAP that Associate Superintendent Cecil went through earlier. Okay, the checkbook balance. So we have 218.9 million at the Treasurer's Office as of April 30th, 2025. We have the fair value adjustment of a little less than 4 million, so that the net cash is almost 215 million. We have liabilities. We know we owe this money, so we already have it identified. So we have to, 7 million that we have for the health and welfare, because remember in July, we don't pay teachers in July, so we have to still pay the bill, and it's coming from there. Retirees health and welfare, same thing. We have to pay the bill for the retirees portion. And the CSAP classified summer assistant, $1 million there, because our classified employees are saving their money because the state is going to match their funds. It's been $1 per dollar in the past. We always get a notification that it can be lower, and we pass that information to the employees. But we're hoping that it continues being dollar per dollar. Deferred revenue, deferred payroll, that is our payment for our certificated staff that don't have a check in July, but because they do the deferred payment, we do a deduction every month on the 11 months, and then we give it to them in July. So they will have 12 checks in the year. And that's the $5 million that you see there. And the use tax liabilities, we pay that quarterly, so we owe that to the state. So after the liabilities of 14.6 million, we'll have a cash balance of 200 million. And then we still have some agencies that owe us money, 779,000 that you see there. Okay, so here is our cash flow, and the July through April are actuals. So we started with 206 million in July. In April, we're ended with 218.9, and we are estimating that we're going to be 118 million in cash in June. For general fund monthly expenditures, in average, the district spends about 33 million, and that is in salary and benefits, and also any vendor payments that we do, utilities and contracts. So to give you an idea, in April 2025, we spent 37.1 million. Salaries and benefits, 26.5 million, or 70% of that 37 million. Materials and supplies, 1.2 million. Services, 4.9 million. Mostly is contracts. You see that 3.8 million, or 10% of that 37.1. Utilities, other services. Capital outlay, we spend 8%, 3 million, and mostly is for those, the 3 middle schools that were doing modernizations in their athletic fields, and it's been paid by ELOP. And the other transfer and expenditures, 1.5 million, and 550,000 goes back to Maxos for those students that they serve that are within our boundaries. So even though they are included in the LCFF to give us the revenue, we have to pay Maxos 550,000 every month for them. The year-to-date expenditures, the first graph that you see there is for payroll. So payroll is very predictable. We know that we have paid employees every month. So we are already 10 months into the year. So that we have 2 months left. So it's pretty good, in good stand there. In the other hand, we have the material services and capital outlay. We have the majority of our budget there that is not assigned to us anything specific, mostly in materials. So if the funds don't get spent, either they get carry over to the following year, or their deferred revenue gets carried over to the next year. Services and capital outlay. And again, we have POs that has been already encumbered for those facilities that we're doing at the middle schools. But if we don't pay all the money on the POs, those POs get rolled over to next year and encumber the funds again. Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay. For the multi-year assumptions, we have the certainties and uncertainties. So The certainties, of course, is the automatically salary is increased. That is the stepping column. Any employee that is not at the highest step in the salary schedule, every July 1st, their salary goes up without doing anything, just showing up to work. CalSTRS and CalPERS contribution rates, that we know the percentages and we plan for it and we include it in the multi-year. 3% increase in health and welfare. We know that is happening, so we budget for it and it's happening. And this year our rate increased more than the 3%. So the employees are gonna see an increase in their out-of-pocket, what they have to pay for or insurance. Minimum wage is going up in January, $17 an hour. So we're planning for that. And Hussein School is opening in 2026. One thing that I want to say about Hussein is that even though we are opening a new school and that will reduce the crowding in other schools, but we're not getting new students. So it's not going to be new revenue opening the new school. It's just new expenditures. So if we have to plan for it, and we do. Uncertainties, state and federal fiscal challenges. We have our eyes and our ears very open to everything that is happening with the federal budget proposal. It's few of our grants are in the line there. They've been identified there. And so we will be very attentive in any decisions that are done at the federal and state level that will affect our budget. Will take care and bring their recommendation to the board of how we're going to handle it. The COLA increase on LCFF, even though they give us an estimate for the future years, those percentages always change. And as we saw it in the current year, we were expecting a 3% like 3 years ago, and it was 1% this year. So for the out years, they are estimating 3%, but depending on how the economy goes, those percentages will change. Unduplicated pupil count, if our enrollment is declining and our students are not showing up as we were estimating the enrollment projection, that means that unduplicated count will also be affected. Decline in enrollment and attendance, of course, and the consumer price index. We see that in our packet when we go pay the bill, for our insurance, like car insurance, house insurance, everything is going up. And that's the same thing for the district expenditures. In future negotiations, that is a big one. We are in, meeting with all labor union partners. And to give you a little bit of history on negotiations, this table here shows the last 10 years of how we've been doing with negotiations. So it's from 14-15 all the way to 24-25, that is the current year. And I'm showing you the state CPI, that is the Consumer's Price Index. So that means how much inflation goes up every year. And the statutory COLA, so that's the percentage that the LCFF revenue increases year by year. And so then the next column is the salary increases that we have negotiated with all the employees in Madera Unified. And a health and welfare increase that happens automatically, it's about 0.5% every year. So without negotiating, employees get a 0.5% increase in compensation just for the health and welfare. So I highlighted those two columns because salary increase plus health and welfare increase, it totals the increase in compensation. So we, in the last 10 years, we have received 38% COLA increase, and we have provided 37.21 increase in compensation to our employees. So I have the statutory COLA received in the last 10 years has been very consistent with the salary raises given to all employees in Madera Unified. And in 22-23, you see that we receive a 13.26 statutory COLA. And first, the state give us 1%, like not 1%, but one amount, and then they increase it with another amount, so the total make the 13%. So by that time, we have already settled with our all labor partners. So the board and the district agreed to provide employees with that $5,000 student champion stipend, and that's what we provided because we knew that we have received a higher COLA than what we anticipated. And again, no, on top of it. And yeah, the $5,000 equal about 13 million that we spent on that. So we still don't have a number for 24-25 on the salary increase. So that is what we're trying to negotiate currently. So to give you an idea, this is the cost of 1% salary increase to all employees in Madera Unified. So what I do, I take current salaries for all the different groups, and plus the statutory benefits, it gives me a total, and that gives me the 1%. So to provide just 1% increase to every employee, it costs us about 2.2 million. So if we, you have heard that 8% somewhere. And so if we do an 8% increase for every employee of the district, that equals about 18 million. And the district will not remain fiscally solvent if we do a 18 million commitment on ongoing salaries. So the superintendent and the CFO has the legal responsibility to public certify to the governing board that the district can meet the costs incurred under any collective bargaining agreement. So we do a public disclosure every time we have a settlement. And myself and the superintendent have to provide you the documentation that we are saying that the district can meet this obligation. Exactly, yes. I will not bring it to you.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why there are so many, over the last few years, there's so many CFOs and superintendents who are no longer leading the districts because they failed and couldn't negotiate a settlement that kept the district solvent. So someone has to go at that particular case, and neither of us want to be those two people at this stage.
No. Okay, so there is an alert there, okay? So looking at the new revenue and new expenditures covered by LCFF, 24-25, we already, it's current year, and we knew we're in deficit spending at that time. 25-26, that 2.3 COLA is bringing us about $3 million, and we have 6.8 million in new expenditures. So we're at deficit spending again, 3.8 million. How we're covering them? With the committed funds that we have in the ending balance. 26-27, the COLA is estimated at 3%. I will not put any bet that it's gonna stay at 3%. It's gonna be, to me, it's gonna be lower. And so, but if it's 3%, it's gonna bring us about 9 million, and we have 8.5 million in new expenditures. That year, we're opening Hussein School, so we're gonna have to hire staff, mainly classified, some certificated, and also give them a operational budget for the school. And also we set aside $1 million to cover everything that they need to make the school ready to have students. And so, but if we get that $1 million in revenue, we'll be in black. So, but we'll have deficits in the prior year, okay? So that year, we may not have the 10% reserve, and you will see it on the next slide. The 27-28, 3.4% COLA, 10 million in revenue, about 6 million in expenditures. Finally, we'll have some surplus in there that will help you rebuild that reserve. Okay, so the interfund transfer, we still have the $10 million interfund transfer that we have it for this year. Next year, we only have 5 million in the budget for the interfund transfer. And we are foreseeing that it's gonna be no more interfund transfer in 26, 27. The approved construction projects, you can see it there, Hussein School, Madison expansion, the TK classroom, and the Madera High Stadium that we have. We have many other future projects that we would like to fund, but we don't have the funds to do it. The TJ modernization, Washington modernization, but
The science building at Madera High School.
yes, that
Yeah.
one too is in here. The event center, the new TK school. Remember, we don't talk about the new TK school science. You know, the bond only help us with one TK school. So we use all the funds in there. So here you can see the ending balance and reserve current year, next year, and the future years. And my goal is to maintain that 10%, but as I mentioned it to you, 27, 28, may not be able to unless we do some changes in our budget. And that will be our goal for 25, 26 to identify any expenditures that we can live without. And so we'll bring that recommendation to the board because the next time that I want to bring the budget, I want to make sure that we have that 10% in 27, 28.
So, or else, just really quickly on the 10%, I think that we probably want to take a moment just to try to understand a little bit more about the value of that reserve, because not everybody sees that the reserve is necessary. It's not necessary every year. We don't need to dip into it, but at Madera County Superintendent of Schools, we're under the impression that we know for sure there will be one deferral this time next year,
Mhm.
right? It sounds as though there is the potential, and we are still a few weeks away from knowing, but there is the potential for one more deferral because it's a really nifty little game that can be played with the budget to make things meet. And that might end up being 3 deferrals. That's the question. How much does one deferral cost the district against the reserve?
18 million.
So it's $18 million. So if there were 2, right, could we sustain
36.
2?
Yes, remember that the deferrals is like we're not receiving the cash, but we have the cash at the treasurer's office and you saw the cash flow that we have. It doesn't mean that that is our reserve. Those are 2 different things. And the cash at the treasury, it means that, for example, the learning recovery funds, we received 32 million back in 22, 23, and we put the money at the treasurer's office and we've been using that money every year.
Okay.
So yes, and the same thing, for example, with ELOP. ELOP, we receive funds for this year that we're gonna carry over those 25 million because we're using the prior year funds and we wanna make sure that we use it everything because we have 2 years for ELOP to spend the funds. So those 25 millions that they already sent to us, we're not gonna spend it, but it's for ELOP, but we can use the cash to pay our bills while we wait for
While
the
we wait.
state to give us our cash.
And so then the other part of this is that it sometimes sounds like the reserve being, excuse me, the reserve being full at 10% is like an indication that we're not trying to spend our dollars. And new money comes in every July 1st, right? So let's say we spend the reserve down. Next July 1st, it comes back?
No, the reserve is one-time funds in there. So once you deplete your reserve, you will have to cut expenditures to build it back.
So basically, just for all of our, tens of thousands of Zoom fans out there trying to wrap their heads around this, we're talking about a savings account.
Yes,
Like at a household level, we call this a savings account. When we drain our savings, It's
You-
drained.
You don't have more savings unless you deposit more funds in it.
Right.
Yes. Okay, and one thing that I want to point it out here, can you click, is the committed funds. So, current year, 42 million, next year, 22 million. In the following year, 5 million. And so we are using our committed funds for the reasons that we put it away for. Like we set aside this money for that reason to cover those positions that we knew we're gonna have to absorb into the unrestricted general fund for those programs that the board and the district wants to protect. The elementary specials, the mentor program, but if we provide or we settle with we negotiate a percentage that is not in the ability of the district to maintain, those programs may go away. Yes. Okay, I'm almost done. One more. So here are the other funds. And general fund is what we already went through very in detail. And so we have a projected beginning balance of 180 million, 412.9 million in revenue, 452 million in expenditures, with 10.9 million transferring out, and they are transferring out to other funds that you see listed there. So we're estimating an ending balance of 67.6 million. Remember, these numbers will change once we bring carryover and deferred revenue into the 25-26 when we close the books for this year. The student activities special revenue is the ASB accounts at the high schools and middle school. And we have a 725,000 beginning balance. We bring about $1 million in revenue and $1 million in expenditures. So we have the same ending balance at the end. Adult school. So adult school is in the list of the federal proposal to be cut, to be one of the eliminations. So don't panic. We are not gonna do anything until we know for sure what's gonna happen to adult education. So they receive about 2 million in funding. Federal funds is about $500,000. That is the WIOA, or Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And then they receive 1.4 million in state funds through the State Center Community College Consortium. And they also receive about 175,000 in local funds that is from the Departments of Correctional. And we provide a teacher that goes and provide classes in there. So they bring about 2 million in revenue, and they plan to spend the whole 2 million. And of course, if it happens that the WIOA program goes away, we'll have to bring your recommendation how we can support the adult education. Child development, they bring about 3.8 million in revenue and 3.8 million in expenditures. And they get carryover, like if they don't spend the whole thing in expenditures, we'll carry over that. So you will see it when we close the books and I bring the information to you in September. Child nutrition, 3.8 million in beginning balance and 20 million in revenue, 20 million in expenditures, and they end with a 3.8 million in ending balance. They are self-sustained, this program, child nutrition, they have no problem with their revenue and expenditures. Building fund, Fund 21 is where we have the bond proceeds. We don't have no more bonds to sell. We sold the last one, 50 million in October, and it's being used for the Hussein School. So you're not gonna see any more revenue in there, but you see the 800,000 that is for the cash that we have at the treasurer's office. It's earning some interest in there. So that's what you see. Developer fees. So we have a beginning balance of 2.8 million. We are estimating 1.6 million in revenue, and that is for any construction that it goes in our district boundaries. The developers has to pay those fees, and we use it, for any portables or any new construction, any modernizations, we use those funds. The redevelopment agency, we have $1 million in new, in beginning balance. We expecting 1.5 million in revenue, and we have 1.2 million going out. And that is going to Fund 56 to the debt service, and it's to pay one of the COPs, that is the Certificate of Participation. It's a loan that the district acquired back in 2004 or somewhere there when we were building Madera South. And so we're still paying for that. And that helps, that fund helps pay that loan. The Fund 35, the country school facilities, is where we receive any state match. And we have received some, but we don't expect anything next year. If we have some projects in line to be funded, but we have not heard if anything is coming for the new year. So you will see it there. So we're starting with 8.5 million. The 800,000 that you see there is only for interest, and 9 million in the ending balance. So those funds will help Hussein School if we need a little bit more money to finish that school. Fund 40, 842,000 with $5,000 in revenue just from interest, 1 million coming from the general fund, and we use that fund to cover any cost for projects that doesn't qualify for routine repair and maintenance. And we do sometimes have to repair a pump somewhere or regrass something because the pump went off, and those funds help with that. Fund 41, the special reserve building, is the big savings that we put in for all this new construction going on. We starting the beginning balance with 53 million, and revenue 1 million, the interest, and then 5 million coming in from Fund 1 from general fund, and 59 million in the ending balance. Of course, that Hussein School is going to use it all. So we're waiting still for what phases. We're waiting for something from the state to be ready to start the construction there. I know we did it in phases. No? Yes, but are we still waiting for anything there to be? No, everything's there.
Memorial
Okay.
Stadium, that's the waiting game.
Okay, confused. It's too late. Okay. Fund 51, it's where we pay those bonds that were passed by the voters. And this $10 million in the beginning balance, the revenue 19 million, and our expenditures at 16.5. And this revenue is received by the treasurer's office, and they pay the bill also. We just have to show it in our books that because the money was for our schools. So once we get the actual numbers, when we close the books, we get it from the treasurer's office, and we'll update the numbers here. And Fund 56, lastly, is the where we pay our COPs. We have 2 COPs, one for Madera South, one for Torres High School, and our payment is 6 million between the two. And so we're bringing the transfer in from the general fund and also from redevelopment agency to help because this fund doesn't generate any revenue, so it has to come from the other funds. So we're making the payments, and hopefully we'll be done in few years. We're going to be done with one of them. Okay, the Section 115 OPEB trust. So we opened this trust back in 2018, and we have 12.8 million in the trust as of April 30, 2025. 10 million has been contributed by the district, and we have received 3 million in earnings, and we have paid 126,000 in the fees. And so we're still doing the 500,000 annual contribution from the general fund. And of course, if we need to cut expenditures, this one will be one of them. Savings to pay for retired health insurance in the future. And in the next slide, you can see how we have done every month, and we have some good months and not some not so good that we have lost earnings. And so, but overall, as of April, we have made 668,000 this year. And so hopefully one day we'll make enough earnings to pay for the retirees' health and welfare in that trust.
Any questions?
We'll bring this item back on the next board meeting for approval, and I will not be here, but Superintendent Lyle will do the honor for me.
I've learned a lot, to be honest. She is a fantastic teacher when she goes through this presentation. Yeah, I don't think I can, nor do I have anywhere near as cool an accent. I do, sir. I have just a few. They're not too extensive this evening, thankfully, for everyone involved. My apologies. We were checking a few facts as we went through the last presentations. We have an athletic advisory committee meeting in the athletic office at Rain Creek. And that's coming up tomorrow at 5 p.m. We also have on the June cultural calendar a celebration for Juneteenth, and it's celebrated on June 19th, and it marks the day in 1865 when the enslaved people of Galveston, Texas, learned of their freedom 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. So it's a really important day in American history. We're glad to celebrate it. And we also have a 10-hour summer schedule, better known as 410s. And so although the district office will be open 5 days a week, there will always be people here 5 days a week. Everyone will have the option of working 4 10-hour days. And we talked about that with you earlier this spring. We're about to start that. And if I'm not mistaken, it begins June 23rd. And it's only for a few weeks. Okay, so it just gives a few people an opportunity to have some 3-day weekends they wouldn't otherwise have without losing any hours that the taxpayers are. So we'll keep all the buildings open. The lights will be on. We'll still be serving the public, but we'll be flexing schedules. So there's always people here on Friday, or there's people are taking Friday or they're taking Monday. Nope. Nope. That's it. Thank you.
Weeks. These updates should be shared in summary to help keep the full board informed about the work our advisory committees are doing. When sharing your updates, include the date and name of the committee meeting, main topics or issues discussed, important takeaways or action items, any next steps for upcoming meeting dates if applicable. So let's keep your updates concise and focus on the information the board for the broader group. Trustee Ahmad?
Yes, sir. On May 29, I attended the District Safety Committee meeting via Zoom. Few updates was received. Panorama data presentation on school safety, also received information safety intervention, MTSS pyramid, health and safety training. Also talked about the vendor contract update. Also from June 3rd to June 6th, I attended all the high school graduation along with all the trustees, as it was so exciting to see the smile and happiness. This excitement is really good to see. It's very interesting that kids are graduating and they are phasing into new chapter in their life. I also attended Furman ISP promotion ceremony and Thomas Jefferson ceremony as well. And that's all I have. That's conclude my presentation.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Trustee Guybert.
Thank you, President Seibert. There's only one advisory committee that I attended. It was the Budget and Finance Committee, and as always, CFO Garcia did a very nice presentation, the same thing that she presented here. And Deputy Superintendent Schwartz provided an update on the facilities. And I don't remember what else it was. I didn't bring my notes, I'm sorry. And I also want to say that it was very nice, all the ceremonies that we attended, the promotion ceremonies and the graduation ceremonies. And I want to publicly thank also our nice and dedicated classified staff. They did a great job putting together every night and taking things down and putting the next school at the stadium at Torres High School. So I want to give them, I know they work behind the scenes, and sometimes everything that we see all nicely done is because they had done the hard work. And they told me that on Friday night, they were going to stay until I don't know how late, and they were coming the following day to set up for the classified conference, like at 4 a.m, I believe. So thank you very much. That's all I have.
The adult transition graduation was held at Furman on May 29th. Last week, we all know this, all the high school graduations were held Tuesday through Friday. It was a very rewarding time for students, families, and to all of us at Madera Unified School District. The long days were well worth it, and thanks to all those that made the graduations possible. Middle school promotions were at 9 at each school, June 5th and 6th. And yesterday was the 6th annual classified conference at Torres High School. Sessions were interesting. The one on gangs was really interesting. They updated what the district is doing, and I was happy to hear that, everyone's working on dealing with our gangs. And then they had a session on stress. That was interesting. Learned how to breathe, not take things so seriously. It was good. Thank you.
I didn't attend no advisory committee meetings, but same thing as the other trustees, just happy for all the ones that graduated, promoted, attended the different high schools, adult school, and continuation schools. And Pershing, Desmond, Dixieland, I did those promotions, but gratitude to all the families and everything that participated in, and the staff and admin, and they made this all happen, and just wish them a nice, hopefully someone could get some rest in the summer. Thank you.
Mendoza.
I attended all high school graduations, but I also went to the promotions at Howard and Desmond and the classified conference. I know there's a couple others I attended, I just can't remember right now. That's it.
Thank you. Item 13B, suggested future agenda items. Trustees, do you have any items you would like the board leadership to consider for a future board meeting? None?
No, but I just wanted to thank all the high schools, because remember I talked about alma maters. All of them included their alma mater in their graduation. I really appreciated that, and I think most of the people, appreciated it too, because that's something important, and you'll remember it for the rest of your life if you know your alma mater. Oh, you didn't learn it then.
Yeah, I wasn't a cheerleader. All right. Advanced planning, regular board meeting is scheduled for June 24th. And item number 15, meeting is adjourned. It is 9:26.